afternoon. It's great to be here. As Shane said, for those of you that I haven't met, I'm Erica Schultz. I'm the president of field operations. I'm going to talk to you about the power of our go-to-market model. Our go-to-market model has evolved a lot in my nearly 4 years at the company, and we're excited to get into it. So first, let me start with the massive market opportunity that we're going after, that we're trying to capture. You've heard a lot about this today, but let me share a couple of more comments. So as you heard Jay talk about, and Sean and Chad, traditional data architecture is based around this fundamental assumption of data at rest. And so this leads to this giant mess of silos and point-to-point connections and batch processes. And as we know, batch processing has been around for decades. It's become a habit. It's very ingrained in a lot of organizations out there. And so oftentimes we find that even though no one really wants to use batch, it's there, and that's the default. It's still everywhere. So to meet the demands of real-time applications and business processes that many companies have, many of our customers have, more than 150,000 organizations have turned to Kafka for data streaming. Confluent, as we know, counts about 4,700 customers and counting, 4,690. And so not only do we have a lot more Kafka usage to go in the market to, within many organizations, but even in the organizations that we do count as customers, and even many of those using Kafka, the usage is still in very early innings. So we see the use of data streaming and the use of Confluent in very early innings in the market, and even within many of our current customers today, most of our current customers today, in terms of the potential for data streaming's use across the enterprise. So we are the proven leader for data in motion. We are fortunate to count customers from many different industries, a diverse set of industries as our customers. This was on full display at our Kafka Summit London event, which we held last month. In London, we had about 1,500 attendees, another 2,300 online. Just fantastic representation from so many different industries, primarily from Europe, given the location of the event, but a really fantastic opportunity to connect with customers. And I will tell you, a lot of the product innovations that you heard about today, and in particular Flink, were some of the most interesting to this customer group. A lot of conversations and sessions on Flink and other topics. But one of the customers that in the UK, Sainsbury's, the UK's second largest grocery retailer, is a great example of kind of the adoption of Confluent. They started with Kafka, what they really needed to do was they needed to access data that was stored in legacy systems, in on-premise systems. And as they were developing more cloud-based customer-facing applications, they needed to access data that was locked away in those legacy systems, and their developers didn't want to touch it. And so they adopted Confluent, and they've been able to really break down these data silos, give their developers access to this really valuable data, and been able to deliver inventory and supply chain management applications that are really game-changing for them. So both some customer-facing applications and also some new business process applications. So it's a great story. I love the quote here from Sainsbury's: "In retail, everything is becoming data-driven. It's no longer just a facet of IT. It's quickly become essential to the entire business. Kafka has become a company-wide nervous system for us, and Confluent has really taken it to the next level." So this brings me to how we segment our TAM across 3 primary segments: the Fortune 500, the rest of the large enterprise market, and then what we call commercial and mid-market, which includes many digital native companies, startups, and even emerging markets for us around the globe. So I want to spend a few minutes talking about how we segment the broader market. So first off, let's talk about large enterprises. And we're definitely in very early innings with our opportunity in large enterprises. We think about the Fortune 500, and then we think about enterprises around the globe, is defined by last 12 months revenue over $1 billion. When we met last time at Current, we talked a little bit about this bottoms-up modeling for TAM, so I won't go through it in detail again here, but we definitely see that the potential ARR in the Fortune 500 is 7 to 8 figures per customer, and significant ARR across the enterprise market as well. So we resource those markets with a slightly more higher touch coverage model. And I'm going to talk about a customer example in a minute, because what we see is once we get into a company with that first use case and they realize the power of data streaming and a data streaming platform and democratizing data, we get into that flywheel effect of bringing more and more applications and data sources onto the platform. So a little more insight into our penetration in the enterprise segment. Let me start bottoms up on this slide. So today we count 1,075 customers over 100K ARR. And I want to point out that more than 50% of this customer base is using Confluent Cloud. That it's been a material source of growth for us with our large customers as well. And our 100K plus customers have grown 34% year over year. If we look at the next tier, we have 135 customers who spend more than $1 million a year with us. That cohort has grown 53% year over year. And within that cohort, we have 9 customers who spend $5 million or more and 3 customers who spend $10 million or more. In those top tiers, those numbers have really grown in the last couple of years. A couple of years ago, we had 3 customers who spent more than $5 million a year with us and none who spent more than 10. So I think this is a great demonstration of the potential in these very large enterprises and some smaller companies who are just making really big bets on data streaming architectures. And I'll talk about a couple of those. So that gives you a little bit of a panorama of our current footprint within large enterprises. I want to talk through a specific customer example of how Confluent and data streaming can grow over time. This is one of the leading global online job sites. And this graphic here, you've seen it before. This is kind of our typical customer journey. So as with many of our customers, this company started with open source Kafka. And this was back in 2017 in their initial steps in their journey to an event-driven architecture. And as Kafka and streaming grew, they realized that managing Kafka on their own was untenable. So we started with a small deal in 2020 for a very specific use case. It was a competitive deal. We won it due to our cloud native benefits and the completeness of our platform. And then by the next year, that initial commitment quickly grew to $1 million as the customer expanded to more lines of business. And they grew to more than 600 users and 1,500 applications once they got the data streaming platform up and running. All of this was on Confluent Cloud. Today, we have become critical to really being a unifying real-time data layer across the organization, and they're running many use cases with Confluent, use cases like employer campaigns, sponsored jobs, targeted searches that help candidate matching for employers, as well as optimize the job seeker experience. So what's interesting as well, we know that all companies, especially those that are very heavily invested in the cloud, this is an environment where there's a lot of pressure to optimize cloud spend. In this environment, their commitment to Confluent, their spend with Confluent, their consumption continues to grow significantly. We're up to a trajectory of more than 10 million today, which is larger than their spend on MongoDB, Snowflake, or Databricks. So as you can see, what started as a very small land has grown quite significantly, more than 100 times over the last several years. And we've become a very strategic partner to them in the data space. So hopefully this is a valuable illustration. And here's a quote from the customer. Confluent's here to stay. Confluent helped us become cloud first by making it easy to migrate and scale our Kafka deployment globally across multiple clouds. All of our Kafka use cases now run seamlessly and efficiently on Confluent Cloud. So really proud to count these guys as a customer. And we're not done yet. We see future growth. Okay, so I'm going to shift from talking about the large enterprise segments to what we call commercial and mid-market. And as I mentioned earlier, this segment counts digital native companies, startups, and a number of emerging markets for us. And this is a really exciting segment for us. We generally define the companies in this segment as having revenues less than $1 billion in the last 12 months, a little bit less than that, smaller than that in some of our international markets. And we really focus on the startups and digital native companies within that segment. Many of these companies, as we can imagine, are born in the cloud. And many of these companies are starting with Confluent with a data streaming architecture, which is really exciting. And we have really strong product market fit in this market because these companies being young, they're kind of starting with the mindset of adopting managed services, data streaming is core, and they don't want to put resources on self-managing, open source. And so the product market fit is really strong, really great value prop. So we're excited about this market, not only because of the volume of companies in this market, but the really high propensity for us, even within relatively small companies. We've seen incredibly strong performance with our go-to-market engine in the commercial space. So a few stats specific to this commercial segment over the last 3 years. We've seen a 7x increase in customer count. We've seen a 13x increase in customers spending over 100K with us. I referenced on a prior slide with about 1,075 customers who spend more than 100K with us. More than 20% of those are in the commercial market. So these are, companies, relatively small companies, but material spend on Confluent. And this engine has helped us achieve global reach. So we're in now more than 100 countries, in large part due to the power of this commercial engine. Our product-led pay-as-you-go model is very robust in this market. Over 90% of our customers start via a self-serve sign-up in this market and often start spending and consuming, a few $1,000s in their first few months. And as they get up and running and successful, their consumption accelerates. And we see, from a few $1,000s to over 100K in ARR in less than 5 quarters on average, which, again, as you can see, is happening at pretty significant scale. So we're really excited about, what's been accomplished in this market and the high propensity for us across this market, as well as it's been an engine for us to kind of perfect this product-led bottoms-up motion that we can then bring into the enterprise to really complement with that enterprise sales motion. So I want to talk about a specific customer example from this market. Metronome is a customer of ours. This is an early stage company, a hyper-growth startup, for those of you not familiar with the company, but they offer a real-time usage-based billing platform. So a lot of demand in the market for their offering, and is its core to the business model for so many startups today who are depending on real-time usage-based billing. So the billing platform is built on Kafka to compute usage and invoices in real time for millions of their end users. And given their size, this is a great example of what I mentioned before. Metronome quickly realized this is not where they wanted to spend significant engineering resource managing open source Kafka. It was costly, and it diverted valuable engineering talent away from their core mission to low-level infrastructure management. So with Confluent Cloud, they were able to reallocate at least 60% of that engineering time to delivering new product innovation instead, which is great. So in just a couple of years, their consumption has increased more than 10 times, growing with the demand for usage-based billing. They count OpenAI as one of their top customers, and their recent six-figure expansion with Confluent puts Confluent as the vendor with the second most spend after AWS in their environment. So they're making a pretty big bet with us. They're very early in their company journey, so we see a bright future for our partnership with them. And worth mentioning that, again, just to round out kind of our opportunity in the startup market, we have a Confluent for Startups program where we have almost over 100 participants, which we're really excited about. So we see this as a really great opportunity for us. Okay, so let me spend a few minutes on our customer growth go-to-market model. This is how we describe our unique go-to-market model. You've heard me talk about this before, but let me just re-anchor us in what differentiates our customer growth go-to-market model here at Confluent. We are product-led, consumption-oriented, and purpose-built for the data in motion journey. And one of the beauties of this go-to-market model is that as we bring Flink to market, this is the ideal go-to-market model for Flink as well. It maps to the customer journey, to the personas, and so we see a lot of synergy as we bring Flink and other offerings to the market as we move up the stack. So first, product-led. Jay shared a similar slide earlier, and we've talked about this before, but this product-led motion and the fact that product-led and enterprise sales motions are complementary is really fundamental to our go-to-market motion. So our product-led motion revolves around that self-service, pay-as-you-go, frictionless adoption targeted at the practitioner personas. We might want to make it so easy for developers and architects to get their hands on our products and get familiar, tinker around, and ultimately start in maybe dev environments with Confluent Cloud. Then we layer on an orchestrated set of what we might think of as traditional enterprise sales motions. So getting to the economic buyer, working with InfoSec to get through security reviews, doing some joint planning to make sure we have aligned definitions of success with that first use case and a clear vision for the power of data streaming across the enterprise. Maybe we do some TCO modeling. So that's where we bring, and of course we work on a contract. That's where we bring in some of those traditional enterprise sales motions and roles in the sales organization. But meanwhile, our technical stakeholders in the account can get right into the product, and that experience can be as self-service as is appropriate. Of course, we'll want to partner with them to do really robust technical evaluation, test scale, and things. So that's a little bit how these two pieces work together. The second pillar of our customer growth go-to-market is consumption-oriented, and this is really powerful, our cloud consumption model. Given the mission criticality of the use cases that we power across both revenue-generating applications as well as data-driven business operations, we've seen our product and go-to-market model drive really exciting network effects in our accounts. We've talked about this, and this consumption model where we have usage-based billing for our customers is just a really powerful and frictionless way for them to consume more use cases and scale their usage with us. It also comes into play, it enables us to move up the stack seamlessly with Flink and other offerings. So this has been incredibly powerful for us. And I think that, as we see new use cases come on where maybe the future usage isn't known yet by the customer, a lot of Gen AI type use cases and that sort of thing, this is a really beautiful model because customers can kind of get started without having to size an environment and, plan for volumes. We can kind of get into it a little bit together before we look at those elements. So our consumption model has been really powerful for us. The third pillar of our go-to-market model is purpose-built for the data in motion journey. And we've talked about this slide, but I just want to highlight that our data in motion journey, we think of it, generally in kind of 5 stages, where early on there's early interest and developers getting engaged with the product. Maybe there's an early production application, and then it moves into, maybe that application moves into production, or we move, the data streaming architecture to other more mission-critical applications across disparate LOBs. And then then ideally the network effects start to be envisioned, and customers start to, in this stage 4, really think about a business-wide integrated streaming strategy. This is where we partner with customers, as you can see here on the slide, across more topics like people, process, technology, and we can help them build a data streaming center of excellence. We might, bring in partners to help companies with the transformation associated with really making streaming a core capability enterprise-wide, with that ultimate destination being Confluent as a central nervous system. There's a great quote here from Bankers Health Group talking about making Confluent the backbone of the company and it really helping them integrate critical apps and data systems together. So, this is a company that's been partnering with Confluent for a few years, and their deployment spans a number of modern cloud native services, both in the cloud and also on-prem databases and batch ETL. But we've really become the backbone of that environment. So, a great example. So the power of this customer growth go-to-market model really is manifest in the growth that we're able to see within our customers. As we talked about, across those 4,690 customers that we have customers in many different stages, but the vast majority are in relatively early stages. And we can see the power and the potential of the growth when we look at the customers who've grown with us over the last several years. And we know that even these customers who are on the larger side have plenty of growth to go. So 3 customers here that I'll talk about. The first is, and all 3 of these started on our pay-as-you-go offering before moving to a commit contract. The first one is a generative AI research technology company, which uses Confluent Cloud to feed real-time data into their billing applications so that they're leveraging our service to minimize the risk of lost revenue. Their consumption has increased 19 times in the last 3 quarters, primarily due to the recent rise of Gen AI. So we're obviously still in really early innings with this customer. Next, we have an online delivery service who uses Confluent for use cases like real-time inventory management and fraud detection. And here we have a 12 times growth rate driven both by the increased demand for online delivery, as well as the customer incorporating Confluent Cloud into more parts of the business, more use cases on their way to a central nervous system. And then finally, we have an online gaming platform. This company uses us to power use cases like player analytics for millions of users, as well as a community safety use case to detect and prevent in real time if players are using harmful language on the platform. And here we've seen a 7x growth rate over the last couple of years. So just a couple of examples of how our customers are growing with us as they're incorporating more and more use cases. All right, I want to spend a minute here on TCO. You've heard us talk a lot about our TCO advantage at various junctures, but this is really important, and especially in this macro environment. So obviously a really hot topic for companies. Most companies are not looking for incremental spend, but rather how can your solution help me achieve lower total cost of ownership than what I'm doing today. So we believe that Confluent offers a fundamentally better, faster, and cheaper solution for our customers for data streaming compared to any alternative, the most common of which is self-managing open source Kafka in-house. And our TCO advantage comes from savings across 2 primary sources of spend when self-managing Kafka. The first is the underlying infrastructure required, and the second is the engineers and operators, operating talent responsible for configuring, deploying, and managing Kafka. So we've built a deeply differentiated stack that drives compelling savings in both of these areas. So let me just give a couple of examples of how we save our customers money across both of these cost categories. So first, on the infrastructure side, multi-tenancy. Confluent Cloud's multi-tenancy allows us to pool our thousands of customers on shared infrastructure to drive higher utilization with a serverless experience, and then we get to pass these savings on to our customers. I'll also highlight elasticity. Our intelligent tiering of data between memory, local storage, and object storage helps manage the cost of stored data and allows instant scalability, enabling higher utilization of the compute resources. So there's some very concrete items that help us drive lower TCO on the infrastructure side. And on the development and operations side, first, our infrastructure improvements actually do double duty here. The improvements I outlined drive vastly higher utilization, and so we manage an order of magnitude less infrastructure than our customers otherwise would. So that's a win. And then the big difference in our operations is that it's done by software, not people that our customers have to staff. So we're able to automatically, for example, detect and remediate the kinds of rare problems that become common at scale. And we have real-time monitoring and checks for every aspect of the integrity of the system. So these capabilities provide Confluent Cloud with a dramatic advantage in the cost of human management. So some very concrete areas where we help customers drive costs down. We work with customers to do customized TCO assessments, sometimes in the sales cycle, sometimes once customers are into deployment, we'll work with them to go back and quantify the TCO. We have a business value team that helps us where we need a high-touch method to do this. But we've done this with hundreds of customers, and across those hundreds of customers, we see an average savings of 45%. 75% of these customized assessments that we've done have demonstrated 25% or more than 25% in savings for a total across this pool of customers that we partnered with of $300 million in total savings. So we're quantifying this very directly. And as you heard earlier, we've also leveraged a third-party study. We had Forrester do the total economic impact study with us to quantify very significant savings across the customers they spoke with as well. So this is very real. And I want to talk about one specific customer example here. This one happens to be a premier global nutrition company where we were able to drive 7.1 million in quantified savings with them. This customer looked to Kafka and data streaming to modernize its data infrastructure from a myriad of legacy ETL tools and batch-oriented technologies as they modernized to an event-driven architecture. We were chosen as the best fit for this modernization initiative, not only due to our platform capabilities, but also because of this quantified TCO. This was really important to them. So by switching to Confluent Cloud, this customer identified 2.1 million in savings in infrastructure, primarily related in this case to storage, which is included and fully managed by us. And then by leveraging our cloud native capabilities, customer identified another 2.1 million reduction in engineering costs because they were able to drive a 60% reduction in engineering time dedicated to this environment due to our automated operations. And then in this case, the customer was also paying a third party for Kafka expertise to augment their internal staff. So they were able to move away from that and free up some costs. And then finally, with Confluent Cloud, customer was able to get to production 14 months faster on use cases such as customer experience and supply chain optimization. And this contributed to 2.2 million in accelerated operating income. So very quantifiable. This is a great story. And we're pleased to be able to do this work with many, many customers. I think that the power of this TCO offering and the fact that we've been able to quantify it with so many customers really enables us to capture far more of the open source Kafka market. Because oftentimes, folks will make analogies from on-prem open source models to the cloud, when in reality, the fully managed cloud offering offers a very different value prop, as we've talked about. Traditional on-prem open source business models typically offer, a premium product, but it's better features for more money. And as a result, the companies that are monetizing that open source are only able to capture a smaller fraction of the market. In contrast with a fully managed cloud offering, we're not just replacing free software, but we're also replacing expensive infrastructure and people costs. And so we can help customers drive costs down. And as the mindset shift is happening in the market and more companies are seeing this opportunity, fully managed cloud services as an opportunity to drive costs down, this is a great win for us. And so we think it's going to enable us to capture more of the open source Kafka market. And we're definitely seeing this across our customer base. All right, let me spend a couple minutes on our partner ecosystem, and following my presentation, we'll actually have one of our partners from AWS join me on stage for a fireside chat. But let me provide the overall frame of Confluent's partner ecosystem. So we view the partner ecosystem as absolutely essential for a data streaming platform's role as a central nervous system. Partners obviously play a critical role in our go-to-market strategy. They expand our reach, increase our efficiency, but it's really strategic for us as well. And in order to become a central nervous system in an organization, we need to be integrated into our customers' ecosystem. And so it means that we have to really think of ourselves as an ecosystem company and make it very easy for our partners to send and receive data from us. So we build the infrastructure, the integrations, and the connectivity once, and then every joint customer can leverage Confluent to build their business outcomes across both our products and our partners' products and services. We've talked about the network effects that are very present in our market, and these network effects really drive partner engagement. I would highlight that what's been exciting about our partner ecosystem is that the wins for our partners are so clear when partnering with Confluent, in addition to the traditional benefits to us from partnering with folks. But CSPs, for example, benefit as they can capture valuable data that's locked up in legacy data sources. We can get that into cloud environments and unlock more cloud use cases for our joint customers. That's been a really big win for customers and for the CSPs. ISVs benefit because we take care of the ingestion for them, allowing them to focus on value-add services versus data acquisition. And then the SIs have a big opportunity because they can help customers really get to that business outcome and where there's a business transformation layer to take care of. So there's a lot of interest in the SI market. And this becomes a continual flywheel and an ever-expanding network of the ecosystem and mutual customers who are benefiting from our highly differentiated ecosystem and go-to-market. There's really three types of partners. I think these are fairly self-evident, but we generally bucket our partners across CSPs, ISVs, and SIs. And we think about, kind of the key pillars of how we partner with each of them a little bit differently. CSPs, first and foremost, it really is about joint innovation and integrations with their CSP native services. And we spend a lot of time with them kind of doing roadmap sharing and planning and making sure that we have seamless integrations for our joint customers across various services. The CSPs are also important, for lack of a better term, kind of distributors and provide us reach to market. Their marketplaces are very heavily utilized by a lot of our joint customers. So we do a lot of transactions through the CSP marketplaces, which helps customers burn down some of their commits to the CSPs. And of course, the CSP sellers are highly incentivized to partner with ISVs for transactions through the marketplace. And as I mentioned, a lot of joint innovation. On the ISV front, integrations with ISV services are key. The network effects that drive mutual consumption. We see a lot of just very clear kind of accelerated consumption on both sides when we partner and make integration easy for our customers. And so based on that, we're going to market with some joint sales plays with a number of our top ISVs. And then SIs, as I mentioned, are really helping our customers drive bigger transformation, get to business outcomes. And SIs are interested in building services businesses, based on these modern technologies. And we're interested in leveraging SIs to, help our customers drive utilization and consumption faster. So there's really a win-win. So all of these pieces add up to increased leverage in our go-to-market model. And that's really what it's all about. I want to just summarize the levers of growth that we see for Confluent. Each of these areas are opportunities for us to continue to drive best-in-class top-line growth. We see a large and growing TAM for Confluent, which we've talked about from a couple of different perspectives. The secular shift to cloud is definitely a tailwind for us. We see that in our cloud results. It's part of every conversation with customers, whether they're digital native customers, where the entire conversation is about cloud, or whether it's more traditional enterprises. We are core to their shift to cloud and part of that journey. We will continue to penetrate and expand in high propensity segments, from digital native to financial services to the public sector, especially as we deliver FedRAMP certification in the future. But we're very focused on our highest propensity segments and how can we tier one markets internationally, and how can we penetrate and expand in those. Growing and harnessing our partner ecosystem, we believe we're in early innings there. There's a lot of opportunity for growth and leverage in the different partner types that I talked about. Continued international expansion. Today, about 40% of our revenue is from outside the US. We are very focused on the highest propensity opportunities first, very focused on tier one markets for Confluent and putting a disproportionate amount of resources there, while leveraging efficient go-to-market engines to be a little more opportunistic in more markets around the world, so that we have a very deliberate and intentional and efficient growth strategy. And then finally, we see large cross-sell and upsell opportunities within our account base. So many use cases. Jay talked about the proliferation of business use cases in every industry. And with every new capability that we bring to market, like Flink, and every new demand driver in the market, like generative AI, those count on data streaming, and really help us identify more opportunities, and grow the opportunity for Confluent. So these are the levers of growth that we see. And I'll wrap on this, that of course top-line growth is critical, but so is leverage in the model. So as we're building out our growth strategies, at the same time, we are very committed to driving increased efficiency overall for the company, but starting with our go-to-market model. We're very pleased with this trajectory, these results, and this trajectory of sales and marketing spend as a % of revenue for the company. We're on a really solid path, and coupled with continuing to put up best-in-class NRR, 130% plus for 8 consecutive quarters, and getting efficiency from continued cloud adoption, and more than 50% of our cloud customers having started on PayGo with an increasing percentage quarter after quarter. So that's a little bit about our go-to-market model and how we're balancing growth and efficiency. And